Welcome to C# for Crestron programming. In this tutorial, we'll learn about enums, or long name enumerators. Enum is a value type with a set of related named constants. In C#, the keyword enum indicates a collection of named integral constants. For many applications, we can create and manage a defined set of named constants by enum type, which is a value type. When we talked about type, we were talking about data types. Examples: int, float, double, char, bool, which are primitive data types. However, classes, structure, arrays, and strings are non-primitive data types. C# deals with various data types, which we addressed in another tutorial. Let's define the value type and reference type here. The value type stores the data within its own memory allocation within stack. These are typically constant or predefined values. Every enum type is called from system.enum so that we can use system.enum methods. Why and when do we use enums? Well, we can use enums for such as months within a year, days within a week, volume levels such as low, medium, high, or even Crestron's SSW-100EL room availability sign that has color scheme attributes such as green, red, and yellow. In fact, enums can be represented for touch panels, keypads, etc. Enums are perfect for these kinds of application. So, in a nutshell, enums make your code clean, readable, and understandable, and reusable so that you can easily scale your code. Let's start a project within our Visual Studio 2019 community version. We create a console app, .NET for C#, which you can test your code within Windows Console View. You don't need a 4-series processor for this tutorial to test your code. We gave a name to our project. For the sake of this tutorial, let's give a name to our project, Working with Enums. You can give any name you like. How about we define an enum called level for volume levels low, medium, high, and to access these levels within our code and display whichever level we want on the console window. Let's also put some comments on the top section. Begin here with /*, end with */. We define our enum within namespace level since it's a new type. We can drive new instances if we wanted to do so for expansion of our program. We could also define under class program level as well. We define an enum called level, and let's define to public if we want to access methods, properties from new instantiated classes. Remember that public is an access modifier, which means anything within this class can be accessible to new instantiated classes. Within enum, we define low, medium, and high for volume levels. We could define our enum and its values all in one line as public enum level with curly braces low, medium, high. Notice that after the last enum value, there is no comma. We comment out this line with 2 // since we are not using it. Next, let's define a variable called volvar, short for volume variable, within our main method. Level volvar equals to level.high. Notice here we are actually accessing to high method by using dot operator and assigning to a variable called volvar. Next, we call this within console.writeLine method to display on console window. Next, let's display this to console view. Let's build or debug our project by selecting Play button on top or Debug menu, then start debugging. Note, if you do not see Play button on top, right mouse click anywhere on Tab View, then select Standard from the list. There we go. We are indeed able to access with dot operator to volume high and display the result to console. This could be displayed on the touch screen as well. One more thing to remember here, if we do not define a constant value to enum values for low, medium, high, then by default the index number starts at 0. For instance, low has an index of 0, medium has an index of 1, and high has an index of 2. It is often a good idea to determine these values up here at the location where we defined low, medium, high. You could define low equals 1, medium equals 2, high equals 3, etc. Here we have the completed program for enums. Certainly we can expand the topic on enums and continue expanding other ways of applying enums to our programs. In this tutorial we learned what some of the enums are. Don't forget that enum is a keyword in the C# language and it stands for enumerator. Where the enums are used and how we can define enums in our program. We used enums for basic volume levels such as low, medium, and high. We were able to access some of the methods for enum values. Stay tuned for more tutorials on enums. Thank you for watching.